I'm Tharanki Ramacharaka. Now, folks, I have a challenge for you. This video, like many of mine, has no script. I've given it a little bit of forethought, just a little. So I'm going to wing it, as I often do here. And this video, in large, is about a sense of humor. In my years of researching and developing program, systematic, methodological program for personal involvement and achievement for myself and for other people, I have found it a little difficult to find useful information, pragmatic, practical instruction on the development of a healthy sense of humor toward life that will help with personal involvement and achievement in life. But I think it's probably a well-established notion that a sense of humor is very important. But how to develop it, especially how to develop a healthy sense of humor, I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be a lot of useful, practical instruction out there about it. And I don't have much along those lines to offer here either. But I do want to address the subject. The how-to is, I guess, the most challenging aspect. Now, I want to talk about a couple other things along the way, too. When I initially started to put together my peak achievement or maximum performance training program, I don't know, I guess it's been 8 or 9 years ago now, which slowly evolved into then a personal evolution training program at the same time. I did not start out with it including anything about sense of humor. When I needed to develop, customize my program for a sales team at one point, I then started to consider sense of humor as being a necessary condition for achievement. Anyway, I also, at the same time, had decided to not include any specific direction in the manner of a spiritual path, because, well, I had at first noticed that much achievement training that's been published, or personal involvement and achievement training, the two kind of go hand in hand at some point. There is achievement training that has to do with, yes, how to increase the bottom line of a business, management enhancement training and so forth. But there always comes a point. There comes a point in personal achievement training at which some kind of personal evolvement becomes a necessary part of the achievement program. And at the point at which those two things kind of merge or start to coexist is about the point at which most such practical instruction starts to get blended in with a spiritual path of some type. Or you only find, in many cases, you only find useful practical instruction along a personal achievement or personal evolution of those natures in some kind of spiritual path. For example, mental discipline training. Often, you'll find some very useful instruction along those lines in the form of Raja Yoga. That's what Raja Yoga is all about. But Raja Yoga is part of a spiritual path. So, my task in the first place, years ago, was to pull together what I could. Practical instruction, good theory, good background information, good, answers to the question, why does something work the way it does? As well as the how do you go ahead and do it? The why and the how. Pull together the whys and the hows that are going to actually work toward personal involvement and achievement training without it involving a spiritual path or any particular religious connotation. Why did I want to put such a program together without involvement in a specific spiritual path or a religious leaning? Because I wanted to appeal to everybody. Anybody who wanted to achieve more in life, in both the long and short-term and long-term pictures of things, taking into consideration the universal laws such as sequence and order, rhythm, cause and effect, and so forth, long and short-term pictures of things. Not just, achievement to satisfy the little false ego, but to get past that, such that long-term achievement and well-being is taken into consideration as well, but without a spiritual path of any specific nature. Because I wanted to appeal to everybody. Some people would get turned off if they found out that what they're involving themselves with in my program has to do with, it all boils down to what Jesus said, or what Buddha said, or what Krishna said, or whatever. Some particular path, some particular religious organization, some particular religious affiliation, spiritual, whatever. It would exclude any such thing would exclude some people I wanted to be able to reach. I wanted it to be for everybody. And anybody who had a particular spiritual path or religious affiliation already, I wanted my material to enhance what they were already doing along those lines. Okay. That having been said, as you may know, if you have been following along with all the material here on my channel, you will know that I have been doing a lot of looking into all of my life. Other planes of manifestation. Out of the, among the 7 great planes of manifestation, what we usually number 7 as 7 great planes of manifestation, I have been looking into, in one way or another, entities and phenomena of the 7 great planes of manifestation. And I have, here on my channel lately, posted information on what has been called the war on consciousness. And I have implicated or insinuated, indicated entities, most likely lower astral and lower mental plane entities, being involved in the control hierarchy, the control pyramid of this planet's physical plane, and mental plane and astral plane. But anyway, I recently saw information on a YouTube video about the World Trade Center thing. We all know what that is, right? The World Trade Center thing. When the Twin Towers collapsed, got hit by what we've been calling airplanes. A lot of people have been calling airplanes. Well, I don't like to speculate too much. Having received a degree in analytic philosophy in an Ivy League level university, that being UC Berkeley. I say Ivy League level because UC Berkeley is not an official member of the Ivy League. The Ivy League closed to new members just before UC Berkeley was completed. The construction of it was completed, and when they applied to become members of the Ivy League was shut. However, it is an Ivy League level university. Having gone there and received a degree in analytic philosophy, which is non-speculative philosophy, unless, of course, you're studying the history of Western philosophy, and then you go through the speculative metaphysicians of the past. But I was very heavily indoctrinated against speculative philosophy. So I like to stay away from speculation, although I engage in it anyway, just like we all do. But I'm aware of the topic. I'm aware of the act of speculating, and I am aware of its pitfalls. When it comes to the 9/11 thing, 9/11 thing, the World Trade Center thing, I suspected from the start that there was something very fishy about that. And I've talked about that a little bit here and there in my channel on YouTube. For a long time, I suspected that, yeah, airplanes hit the World Trade Center, but I don't think anybody from the Middle East was responsible for it. It seemed to me that people in our own government set that all up. And the more I looked into it, the more convinced I became that it was an inside job, a United States of America government inside job. And I got to looking more into it, and it just looked to me like there weren't even any real airplanes involved. See, I'm off into speculation here. But I was doing a lot of research into it at the same time. But a lot of the things I was looking at, in my, so to speak, research, were things that involved speculation. Not so much on my part, unless I was drawing conclusions. But the premises upon which I would be drawing these conclusions were speculative. Like I said, though, not on my part. I was looking at things, researching into things that seemed to involve speculation, but not entirely. Some other people were looking at some facts, I think, and then drawing their conclusions. So while they may have been looking at some factual material, then they were connecting dots in a somewhat speculative fashion. You got to be careful about all of this because, one little bit of speculation can lead to the next, and you can start building a whole structure, a conceptual framework on some factual and some speculative ground. And then from that framework, keep repeating that at one level after another until you have an entire worldview that's full of holes. Funny thing is, though, that's kind of analogous to the structure of what we call physical reality, right? It's full of holes. It's more what we would call empty space than anything. I'm laughing about this, you see, because I just drew a parallel, a loose analogy, a weak analogy about, two different things being full of holes. And I'm thinking it's kind of funny. And that's kind of related to a sense of humor, right? What's this have to do with 9/11, 9/11? Well, the more I looked at footage of the, I was going to say spacecraft, slip of the tongue, aircraft that hit the World Trade Center, not knowing whether I'm looking at doctored up footage. I don't know. How am I to know? I'm not sitting here with, a lot of expertise and equipment to analyze footage. I'm just looking at what I'm looking at, with my naked eyes on the internet. Footage. There's something wrong. The speculative conclusion. I'm looking at a lot of footage. Just taking footage as it comes, right? Something wrong with those aircraft. They don't look real to me. Have you ever looked at them? I mean, close, some of this footage. There's something wrong with them. It's been hard for me to put my finger on it. Something wrong. Like, they're not real. Especially the fact that they appear to be more like shadows than anything. I mean, the sky was well lit. It was daytime. Pretty sunny days, rather sunny days, as I recall from all the footage. Yeah, it was a nice day. Nice day, clear day, not too overcast, right? Those aircraft should have been well illuminated. But in most of the footage that's available, they're dark looking, just really dark, like shadows. And you know what? Another thing, I have yet to hear anybody, any witnesses, first-hand witnesses at the scene when these aircraft hit the buildings. I have yet to hear that anybody heard the aircraft. A lot of people say, oh, I saw them. I saw them. And I'm not quite certain about this, but it seems to me that some people have said they seemed to have just come out of nowhere. Oh, we see diagrams of the routes they supposedly took, but, well, I guess nobody was standing down there waiting for this to happen and then, had their cameras, their camcorders pointed in the direction these airplanes were expected to come. No, but it just like all the actual footage is when the planes are within the last seconds of approach. But I've not heard anybody say, nor have I heard in any of the footage, the sounds of aircraft. Haven't heard anybody say, yeah, you can hear them. I mean, look, despite the street sounds, I used to live in New York City. I used to live in Manhattan, New York City. The city. New York. I used to live there. Yeah, there are places where the street sounds are kind of, things are a little noisy. Buses driving by, taxis going by, people blowing their horns and stuff. But look, any aircraft that are flying that low, you're going to hear them. You're going to hear them. Well, like I said, a lot of people have said, oh, I saw those aircraft. Look, right here. I got it on camcorder. I got it on my cell phone camera, whatever. I haven't heard anybody say anything about having heard any aircraft, nor have I heard any aircraft sounds in any of the footage. Plus, those aircraft look pretty dark. They don't look quite real. Plus, some of the more damning evidence against them being actual aircraft is how they entered the building. Now look, let's say here, I gotta find something that looks a little bit airplane-like. All right, here. A pair of scissors. Here's my airplane. Here's the tail fin. Okay. All right, look. Now I have to get something that looks like a building. Building. Where's my building? Gotta have a building. Okay, here's a building. Building. Here's a building. There. A piece of wood. Here's an aircraft. Here's a building. Now, this building, just pretend with me now. Use your imagination. Develop a mental image. You know how to do that. At least by now. You need to know how to do that, don't you? A mental image. All right. A primary thought form. Folks, if you've been paying attention here on my YouTube channel, you'll know what a primary mental thought form is. Develop a primary thought form at this moment that involves visually looking at this piece of wood, right? But mentally, primary thought form that it's a steel and concrete building, okay? So you have your primary thought form going on here, your mental picture, okay? This represents, what this represents, a steel and concrete building, heavily reinforced. My goodness, my cats are fighting like crazy over here. Hey, settle down, glowing eyeballs. I see you. Puma and Panther. They go at it like crazy, like brother and sister. It's weird. All right. Heavily reinforced, thick steel and concrete. Okay? Got it? All right. Aluminum airplane. Not heavily reinforced. Somewhat flexible, as a matter of fact. Yeah? Flying in at a couple of 100 miles an hour? Let's just say 250 miles an hour, okay? Hits. Nose of aircraft hits. Nose of aluminum, I think? Yeah. Not too thick, right? Look, you know what happens when an aircraft crashes into something, right? It flies apart. It crumbles, it crushes, it breaks into pieces. It doesn't do very well. Right? If it hits something made out of concrete, it breaks into pieces. Right? Steel and concrete. Nose of airplane. See where I hit there? What's going to happen to the airplane? Huh? What are you going to see? If you slow down the footage and you go frame by frame, or just slow-mo, right? Slow-mo replay. What are you going to see happening to that airplane? The nose of that airplane. What's going to happen? You tell me. All right, I'll tell you. This doesn't take a lot of speculation. It's going to crush the steel and concrete? No. No. There may be some damage to it, yeah. But what's going to crush? The plane. The plane. The plane. You're going to see the nose buckle up like this. Pieces fly off. But what do you see in the videos? Huh? All right, pretend something else now. Pretend that this has a structure. All right, hang on. Pretend it is more like this. A World Trade Center representation. Let's see if I can put this together. See, this is a box with a lid, see? I was showing you the lid. All right, well, this still isn't going to do the whole trick for me. All right, but what we saw was this kind of thing happening. You're going to have to pretend that this is just a short little pair of scissors that doesn't stick out the other side, you know, that doesn't stick out over here. over here. All right, all right. But look, this is what you see happening. This is what you see. Here's the World Trade Center. Here's the airplane. This is what you see. You don't see any airplane crumbling, crushing, falling apart upon impact. This is what you see. A nice, quiet this. Now remember, it's not coming out over here. Remember, this is like an inaccurate representation. But what you see is that airplane just kind of disappearing into the building. Like a little magic act. Right? It just slips into the building. Slips in. Just kind of disappears. Nice and slick. Like a ghost going through a wall. Like a ghost going through a wall. Just like that, nice, smooth. No pieces of airplane flying around. Why? Is it a holographic projection? Well, if it was, not of the ordinary kind, right? Not of the kind that we normally think of, you know, where you have a couple of projectors and some mirrors and some lasers. I don't know how far I'm speculating to say this, but those weren't real airplanes. I had been thinking holographic projections for a little while. How? Well, I don't know. I was thinking maybe it had something to do with the combination of, you know, technology that's probably a few thousand years advanced beyond what we know about. Plus, perhaps the nanotechnology that's flying around in the air because of chemtrails, which I have heard enables holographic projections midair. Projected how? I don't know. Maybe somehow using the HARP antenna array and its sister arrays around the planet. If you know what those are. Hopefully you do by now. But that's all just speculation. Then I saw something just the other day here on YouTube. Something that kind of ties together most of the stuff that I've been saying so far here in this video. Darn it. You know, I did not want to get into anything that has to do with religion or, you know, formal scriptures, anything like that here in my personal evolution and achievement training program material that I am presenting for you. And this video, granted, is about sense of humor. And I'm getting to that. But I saw something the other day that kind of made sense to me about the World Trade Center thing. But I have to talk about something religious now. But not necessarily. Depends on how you want to look at it. I've been talking about planes of manifestation, you know, and so far I think I have successfully avoided any engagement in spiritual path or religious talk. But now I'm going to bring up entities, and I'm going to use a word that has a religious connotation. The word is angel. Now, I haven't talked too much about the higher planes. The set of planes called the higher planes. You know, the causal plane or the one level of the causal plane is called the Devachan. I mean, there are these interchangeable terms, and they have specific meanings depending on how you trace them back in your etymologies and so forth. Well, and then the two spiritual planes. Not a lot is known about these higher planes. The higher levels of the causal plane, that also being called the higher mental plane. There is some known, and kind of like just kind of generally accepted information about the lower levels of the higher mental plane. And then the higher levels of it, not so much, and then even less about the actual spiritual planes. But of course, it is accepted. I take it as gospel truth, let's say, that life is everywhere. Life, the life principle pervades everything, and at all levels of being, there is being. And the distinction between being itself and manifest beings, that line kind of blurs, depending on what plane we're talking about. I mean, and how differentiated we want to, what level of differentiation we want to refer to. But being and beings, beinghood is everywhere. Life is everywhere. Life is in all things. Now, when we're talking about man-made structures like buildings, okay, the building itself is not a living being, but it is composed of pieces, little pieces. It's little atomic structures involve life. Okay? There is no such thing as something inorganic unless you're just talking about it lacks carbon. Right? But all natural structure is alive. All right? So we come along and we break things apart and we restructure them into, man-made structures, but the component parts of those structures are alive. Life is involved with them. Okay. All right. So, life is everywhere. And beings, we can think of the sun as a being. We can think of the moon as a being. It's just different levels of being, okay? Than the ones that we're accustomed to referring to. Angels. All right. Look. It seems that just about anything is corruptible. If something gets wrapped up in lower plane activity and starts to identify with it, it has what we might call fallen. It has fallen for some kind of a joke, some kind of a bad joke, some kind of illusion or delusion. So let's say it's not too far off into a religious idea or a religious, a theological idea. You don't have to go into theology very much to conceive of beings that are not human, that are part of the spiritual planes, okay? Getting corrupted and getting more and more involved in lower plane activity, okay? Now, if we're talking about beings that are like, I don't know, let's give some of them a name. Angels. And let's say some of them, they just kind of started to think, I don't really want to work toward the natural course of evolution in the cosmos anymore. Maybe I'll just help things go the other way. Yeah, I'll get caught up in that trend. Devolving things. All right, so then you have, I don't know, what do we want to call them, those angels? I guess they're still angels, right? But they, I don't know, maybe let's call them fallen angels. Now, we've already talked about some of these, a lot of entities, astral entities, thought forms, some of the stronger thought forms, nature spirits, the elementals, some of the elementals, and others. They can take whatever form they like, right? We know that by now. If you've been following along here in this channel, you'll know about entities that can take on whatever shapes they want. They can appear to human perception however they want to appear. Even some aspects of, disembodied souls can take on different shapes. Now, what about beings that have a lot of power? And they're not really confined, to just the physical dimension, the physical plane, right? They have a lot of power, and they can take on whatever shapes they want, and they can manifest physically insofar as they are structured differently than us. They can manifest in whatever plane they like, let's say, particularly the lower ones, and they can take on whatever shapes they want. These are well-established things in occult thought. Now, what about those airplanes? What were they? Well, this video I saw here on YouTube, somebody pretty much, I think, from a Christian theology background, or was grounding what he was saying in Christian theology. But I had to think about this. I heard this person say these were fallen angels attacking the World Trade Center, and our government knew about it. Now, you see, Nick Rockefeller told Aaron Russo, if you've watched my material here, you will have seen that video, a couple of videos about Aaron Russo that I reposted here on my channel. The Rockefellers knew that this was going to happen. And they said that, our government was going to take advantage of this thing, to invade the Middle East, blame this on some guy over there, start a war on terror, initiate the Patriot Act, the whole bit, just start the whole New World Order thing, give it a real good kickoff, get it really rolling with this event that was going to happen in New York City. So, see, I'm starting to wonder, without getting involved in any real theology or anything, just, entities that we might call angels, who have gone bad a long time ago, just went south on everything, kind of went to the southern end of the cosmos, conceptually or metaphorically. I mean, all this stuff about aliens and entities and so forth, I'm starting to think that some of the more powerful ones that are up to no darn good from our lower plane perspective might be these what we might call fallen angels. They can take on whatever shapes they want, and that they are perhaps some of the entities that is one way to label them, that are behind the whole control structure of our planet here, with the war on consciousness and a lot of the events that are going on, including the strange sound phenomena and so forth. Hey, this whole thing about an alleged upcoming alien invasion, from beings from other galaxies and invading here. Who knows? I don't know, but I've already warned. I've already said here in my channel, don't buy into this stuff all the way. Personally evolve, move toward true selfhood. Don't get distracted, right? And all this clamor about what kinds of entities are involved, what kinds of things they're up to, whose interpretation is the right interpretation, what the truth is, what the truth isn't. You know what it comes down to? It's all kind of funny. And trying to figure it all out, sometimes you have to just go, okay, I've heard enough for a little while. I don't know. But I do like the fallen angel explanation. I mean, I even saw some footage, if it wasn't doctored up, of one of these planes for about 2 frames before it hits the building. Half of one of the wings was gone. It wasn't even there. There was a wing. Here comes the plane, okay? Wings, right? Here it comes. I don't know how to represent this with scissors. All right, wings. All right, wings. Okay, here comes the plane. This is my plane. Here it comes. Here's a wing. Here's a wing. Here it comes. Wings, 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 wings. And then suddenly this wing is gone. And it didn't even hit the building yet. It's just like not there. Like something was faking looking like an airplane flying through the air, but it didn't do real good at it. Okay. Sense of humor. That was all my lead in to sense of humor. How in the world is any of this stuff funny? How in the world do you take something like that to be funny at all? That's the question. That's the point. Sense of humor. Healthy sense of humor, folks, is very important for achievement. Why? Well, because if you don't have a sense of humor, just any kind of sense of humor, if you don't have a sense of humor, depression is pretty easy to fall into. Got to be able to laugh, right? But not only that, got to be able to laugh healthfully. Now that's the trick. That's the trickier thing. Now those who have a very little developed sense of humor, I'd like to be able to help them more. But I have to be able to help you guys in a healthy manner. Only things that are safe, remember? Now, a sense of humor that is rooted in lower plane vibrations is not going to be a healthy sense of humor. You're going to end up doing like a lot of people do. Laughing at things that are tragic. Laughing at people's misfortunes. Sitting in front of the computer watching stupid stuff like somebody riding a motorcycle and having a bad accident. And look, I've seen people do this. Like America's, most stupid videos or something. Some kid riding a skateboard and he gets hit by a bus or whatever. I've seen people watch videos of things like that over and over and laugh every time. Saying, oh, stupid kid, look at that. Ah, he got hit by the bus again. Ah, ha, ha. Replay. Hey, come here. Charlie, come here. You gotta look at this stupid ass. Look at him. Bam! He got hit again. Ah, ha, ha. See, now that's not a healthy sense of humor. That's a sick sense of humor. Laughing at other people's tragedies, laughing at other people's misfortunes, laughing at stuff that's just horrible. for someone else. And getting off on it like that. It's almost psychopathic, to find something like that funny. Well, it's not funny if it happens to you. It's laughing at other people's expense. Even over things that are horrible. Not even funny. In any way, really. I'm not talking about that kind of sense of humor. When I talk about sense of humor being a necessary condition for one's personal achievement in life. I'm not talking about laughing at things that, and your laughter is going to cause you negative karma. Not talking about that. Finding humor at other people's expense is not healthy humor. However, there is a way, from a more personally evolved point of view, a point of view that is rising above the lower plane vibrations in total. There is a way to find humor in a healthy way in everything. Now, this will not involve sitting and watching people getting hit by a bus and then laughing like crazy over it. Not the same kind of thing. But I am talking about humor in everything. Look, if there is a way to, let's say, see that all phenomena in the cosmos can be explained in terms of numbers, numerically. Okay? Or another way to explain all phenomena is in terms of, let's say, sound vibration. It's another way to explain everything, right? Just depends on your point of view. Or we can remember some videos ago here in my channel, in my playlist, Personal Evolution Part 3, we talked about all the laws, the universal laws, rhythm, sequence, order, and so forth, cyclicity. Just really, opposites being aspects of one law, differentiations of one law, the law. Well, all these different little ways to explain everything are different points of view to get at the same thing. Remember that? Okay, another point of view about everything then, correct me if I'm wrong here, would be sense of humor. There is a way to see everything, anything and everything, such that it is humorous, or entertaining, let's say. Entertaining in a way that causes a bit of a laugh. Kind of like it was a joke. Just some entertainment. Folks, I don't think we were really meant in the first place to get all caught up in the lower planes and this physical reality, taking it all to be so damn serious all the time. And if there is a way to not take it so seriously at one moment, then there is the same way to not take it so seriously at all the other moments. It's kind of like a movie going on all the time, kind of like a show, but we're part of it. We're partly writing it, we're partly acting in it, and we're partly observing it all at the same time. And just the same as we go see a movie projected upon a screen, a beam of light with an image implanted in it, cast on a screen in a movie theater, and we can sit there and laugh, because it's not so serious. At the same time, this whole cosmic picture show that's going on is cast upon the whole screen of consciousness. It's like encoded information, let's say, in the beam of light that is projected forth by cosmic will into the screen of pure consciousness. And we can see it. We can get all caught up in it if we allow ourselves to. Now, of course, we have to take things seriously, moment to moment, because they are happening at the level at which they are happening. But we don't have to, resolve ourselves to seeing things from that level only. There's another level at which we can see things, from the higher planes perspective. We can look, let's say, as it were, down upon things, in a sense, from a higher plane perspective. The perspective, let's say, at which we can see that all things work toward evolution. Even the devolution type things, evil things, serve to redirect toward the path of natural unfoldment. When we can get to that point of view in which we can see that, yes, evil exists at the level at which evil exists, but our whole thing, right? Remember this stuff about the big bad wolf and so forth, getting to a higher point of view where we're just kind of like above evil. Okay? We can see, from that point of view, we see that all things work toward cosmic evolution, even things that go the other direction. Moving in that direction eventually just causes pain, suffering, and eventually, we either get the message and get redirected, or we just slowly move toward annihilation. From the same point of view, the same higher point of view, we can see that there is something humorous about the whole show. And this whole idea that there are beings and entities all trying to get our attention and control us or whatever, that's kind of funny if you ask me. This doesn't mean I agree with them or disagree with them. It just means that I can see the whole charade as something with a little bit of humor about it. Okay? I think that's getting toward having a healthy sense of humor about affairs. What about that fact that patterns repeat all through nature at all different levels? You might not see that as something funny at first, but why not? That's kind of funny. That patterns, number sequences, and shapes, just kind of repeat in a fractal and holographic fashion. As above, so below. Why are these things the way they are? I mean, that's kind of funny, but it makes things work. That's how things work. It's kind of funny. Hey, look, if you take some, let's say, psilocybin mushrooms or a hit of LSD back in the 60s, as I understand it, a lot of these things, would make you laugh during that experience. Because I don't know why, it would just strike you as pretty funny. Also, strike you as pretty serious at the same time. Like, wow, that's pretty awesome the way things work. The simple and yet very complex way that things work. The very idea that things really boil down to some simple laws that just repeat over and over and over, forming all kinds of complexity. Why can't that be funny in itself? Huh? If it's not funny to you, look for the humor in it. Try to find it. Try to find it. Get to the point. Get to the point. Try very hard. Find the point that from the true self. The true self, okay? That's just part of the self of everything. And feel the humor in that. That the simplest laws working together make the most complex things going. That's kind of funny. If you can catch on to a little bit of a chuckle about that any day now, then catch the spirit of that little chuckle. Catch on to it. Like it was a wave that went by, right? Try to catch the wave and hold on to it until you can feel what it feels like. Remember, feel what it feels like. Remember that? I've said that a lot here in my channel. Feel it. Feel it. Make it a right brain experience. Understand it, left brain. Feel it and experience it, right brain. Make it a whole brain thing. Personally evolve with it. That sense of humor will greatly enhance your achievement in your daily affairs because you will be able to arise even further, above the hardship, the calamity, the seriousness, the casualty, the trauma, the drama, and be a healthy participant and a healthy observer and a healthy supervisor of your own personal evolvement. And believe me, if you have been personally evolving toward true selfhood, you should find this challenge here in this video to be less challenging than otherwise. I'm Tharanki Ramacharaka. Having not given you much practical instruction here in this video, nonetheless, I think I have given you something to think about and to look for and to feel and to experience and to grow in and grow through. It's called a healthy sense of humor. It's a pretty important thing, and I don't think there's a lot being said about it. So now I have, and hopefully more people will now too. Hopefully you will experience more of it. It, again, is a healthy sense of humor. Perhaps considering what we might call the cosmic joke, cosmic humor, healthy sense of humor, the funny side of everything. Be well.